For most people, NFT is simply just a collectible. But how we're doing them, I mean, they've got logic on them, and they've got the state of them can grow and change based on rules that are built into them. So it's so much more than just, okay, here's this little collectible I've got. It's actually something that grows and changes over time.
Hey everybody, this is Becky Legiro. Welcome to Hashing It Out. Today I have with me two special guests. We have Adam Kling. He is the CEO and founder of FYX Gaming. And we have David Case. He's the CTO and chief architect of FYX Gaming. Two of our superstars here in the blockchain and esports space. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. Real excited Absolutely. To talk to you both. Yes, about NFTs and about esports and gambling in particular. So to start things off, first of all, I wanted for you guys to explain what FYX Gaming is and also what CryptoFights is, because I often associate the two of you with both of these companies. So I wanted to start off with the relationship between the two of those companies. So Adam, I will start with you on this.
Sure. Yeah, so we actually started with CryptoFights, and that evolved into a platform. Formerly used to be called Kronoverse, and we've renamed to FYX Gaming. So think of FYX Gaming as kind of the Steam or the platform level. That's where we're creating, the whole platform, the portal, the marketplace. And CryptoFights is just the game, that you can play on the platform.
Very cool. And yeah, David, I mean, we've been hearing so much about CryptoFights lately. I know you guys just broke the 1 million transaction mark on the BSV blockchain, which is so very cool. David, tell me how you're involved with the organization. I know you've had I think 3 years of experience in developing on the blockchain. So if you could just tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, we started out very much just kind of, I think Adam had an idea of a little project he wanted to do, and we kind of started that journey of figuring out what we were going to do, even and what our product was going to be years ago. And over that time, I got into the blockchain development world, and then got into Bitcoin, and I've been basically really nerding out just on the tech side, on the back end, on how all the data can fit together. And the gaming space isn't even really my forte. That's been something that's been kind of a new challenge. But I love how all the data plays together and how the blockchain enables everything to point to everything else and give you a full immutable history of everything. That's just been a driver for me to figure out what we're doing here.
Yeah, very cool. And I think it's also really interesting that you've had experience developing with Ethereum, which is a blockchain that the gaming industry and the gambling industry in particular talks a lot about. And in fact, like I said in the beginning of this interview, that NFTs is an area that the gambling industry is just so excited about, so focused on, probably confused about, because there's a lot out there. And there's three different companies that I've heard of a lot in the NFT space. There's Zedrun, which is a digital horse racing NFT program that people can breed horses and do all sorts of things. And this is on Polygon, which is layer 2 Ethereum. Then we have Sandbox, where you can buy property, you can rent it. It's like a metaverse. And this is also Ethereum. And then you have NBA Top Shot. And I know, Adam, you know quite a bit about this one on the Flow blockchain, which is cards that represent video highlights. So all of these are really cool ideas. I think they have the platform wrong, but that's just my opinion. But today I wanted for you guys to talk about how, let's start off with CryptoFights in particular, is taking advantage of this NFT craze. I know that you are BSV blockchain, but first of all, David, can you talk to us about how CryptoFights is actually taking advantage of NFTs? What can players do with them? How do they get them? Fill us in.
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of, it's a core building block of everything we do. When you have a character, it is an NFT. When you have weapons and armor, they are NFTs. And our battles themselves are actually data representations on the blockchain that a player actually owns for a certain period of time. And when you win a battle, you actually win. The battle object actually becomes to your wallet, and it is yours. And there are lots of different pieces where, using these smart ownable objects, we can, and essentially, I guess it's hard to narrow it down to just what, because for most people, NFT is simply just a collectible. But how we're doing them, I mean, they've got logic on them, and they've got the state of them can grow and change based on rules that are built into them. So it's so much more than just, okay, here's this little collectible I've got. It's actually something that grows and changes over time. And then as you play, we drop new weapons to you, and those weapons can be traded or sold or melted down for the BSV that's stored in them. So it's a very flexible world.
Yeah, and I'd like to add actually onto that, because you mentioned the metaverses. What David's kind of alluding to is really, I think, the foundation of what the future of a real metaverse will be. Sandbox or any of these other ones are still somewhat, I would say, somewhat siloed, especially when you talk about like private blockchains like Flow. And having, these NFTs that can interact with other NFTs using logic is what I think will start to usher in, I guess you could say, the first stage of a true metaverse, where people can open economy, anyone can go in, doesn't need permission, kind of like how open source can maybe work or does work. And I think that's what will start, hopefully in the next couple of years, it's going to start, and we're going to be one of the leaders to do that. I see a lot of metaverse terminology thrown around, but I don't really consider it what I think Ready Player One, assuming that, it's not a megacorp doing it, but that's what it really is going to be, is really kind of a new ecosystem, new protocol, to work with.
Yeah, I mean, we're just starting off here. I totally agree with you. And there's a whole future ahead of us. And I think also, David, you mentioned that you essentially earn your NFT in CryptoFights. And I think something that differentiates CryptoFights NFT ecosystem from these other ones that I mentioned earlier is that you have to actually open up your wallet, like your literal wallet, and buy them, right? You're not earning them. You're having to fork money out. And I know that on Ethereum, especially, not to pick on Ethereum here, but there's big fees associated with this and all sorts of stuff. So I think that this is something that's really exciting about CryptoFights, is you earn this NFT when you play. Really cool, really cool. And David, talk to me a bit about why you've chosen BSV blockchain to do this instead of Ethereum, of Flow, of these other ones that people tend to be talking about, particularly in the gambling space.
Yeah, well, it's pretty simple that it's actually the only one that can do it. Everything else out there is just either by the way the technology is put together, or by the economic decisions that those who are running the chain have made, or like there is nothing else out there that can scale. Like you mentioned, we've put 1 million transactions through in the last month. That's just not any other blockchain can handle that. Or if it could, the cost would be so prohibitively high that we would have no way to be able to actually do that. Where here we can pay for the transaction fees for thousands of interactions per client, and it really is something that is not going to break the bank, and it works fast, and it's reliable, and it's here now. So
great.
yeah.
David, I also wanted for you to explain to our audience about your experience with, like I said, you've developed on Ethereum, and I believe both of you actually started off using Ethereum with CryptoFights and FYX or Kronoverse. So you had to make a transition there from the foundations you built on Ethereum to moving things over. And I think people in the gaming space might be afraid of doing that. Maybe they've already started working with Ethereum and they don't want to abandon ship here. But can you tell me about the process of making the transition and why you believe that it was worth it?
Well, I mean, it was worth it because we really didn't have a working product in Ethereum. I mean, we were 90% of the way there, but the last 10% was proving very, very complicated. And every time we'd solve that there'd be another 10% that was still missing. And you never could get to a point where the whole system just worked. I'll be completely honest. It does take a different outlook on how you develop software and how you architect a system to work in Bitcoin than it does in Ethereum. But at the same time, Bitcoin just provides so it's just a much broader world. Ethereum is really, I mean, people joke about saying it's a shared cell phone computer, but it's really, the power is not very much. I mean, you have to stretch it to, with every tool you've got, to even just get simple transactions to happen. And so the type of logic that we've got in play, it wasn't workable. It wasn't going to work. So it took some going back to the drawing board and re-envisioning some things, but just out of the box, the Bitcoin blockchain provided the pieces that we hadn't yet solved in Ethereum. We just kind of got for free, and it made the whole development process way easier.
Yeah, well, I do hope that the gambling industry is listening here. So if you're thinking,
I'd like to add one more thing onto that too about
yeah,
you know, with all these side chains that are kind of popping up to solve the kind of the scale issue, you know, if we're going to point at Ethereum or any of the other ones, you know, I think that there might be a problem in the future with that because, you know, it seems like every project is going to have a parallel network to operate from. And then you start to get into, well, you know, if I can do it so much cheaper, you know, think of like Dapper Labs and Flow and NBA Top Shot, you know, why do I even need to use Ethereum? You know, what's the whole point? You know, what's the essence of why we're doing this? And this is one of the things that we went through and why we moved. So NBA Top Shot, let's say they get really successful, they have a lot of player base, you know, they're going to start showing, you know, to Ethereum, you know, what's the whole point of going to, you know, was it Polygon and Matic and all these other layer 2 solutions when they could just do that themselves. So you know, again, I think we're really in the early stages where we're all trying to kind of figure out, you know, who's going to be the winner in the race for market adoption. But B, like on the technical side, is that it's so much simpler for us, you know, is that a lot of these other projects have to worry about their layer 2 network, and then they have to worry about, you know, committing that or reporting that to Ethereum and vice versa. And there's actually some other projects that are doing that, and people have to kind of buy into the layer 2 network, and then it has to report out. And so it's just like the back and forth, and who knows if there's gonna be like a layer 3 and 4 and 5 in the future to kind of do that. So that's kind of a big unknown. I don't know how it's all gonna work out, but it is a complexity, you know, that we won't have because we're done. You know, it's all layer 1, we're done, and you know, BSV kind of takes care of us at that point.
yeah, very, very good point. Thank you. And actually, Adam, you reminded me of something I wanted to ask you about, which is an NBA Top Shot. You know, they have these video clips, but I do believe they're actually still owned by ESPN. They're not owned by the person that owns the NFT. Can you tell me how the NFTs or the projects you're working on within CryptoFights and FYX Gaming are different than that when it comes to your NFTs?
Yeah, this is definitely a forward-looking kind of topic. So the NBA Top Shot, yes, you know, it's ESPN and whoever the IP holders, you know, they really own the rights to that. The owner of the NFT kind of has the rights to, you know, buy, sell, and trade maybe on that platform or the network. But where I think our minds are is that, you know, that's probably going to be a use case, is that people just want to own the collectible, but they don't necessarily want the broadcast rights or any other of these title to whatever it is. But I think in the future that might be very interesting for people, is that let's say an artist has, you know, I don't know, 10 NFTs and each of them are unique with some footage or some art or whatever, that they actually do want to sell the rights to maybe reproduction rights or something like that. And it would obviously be a lot more valuable because of that. What's cool is that on our platform is we can actually have the IP holder say, yeah, you know, you can own this, but maybe I want 5% of every time you sell it, you know, or something like that. So these kind of innovative strategies to monetize, you know, past that. But I will say, you know, talking with, you know, various groups is that it's definitely on the forefront. I mean, they're just wrapping their heads around the NFT space, you know, from what's going on now. And so when you say, you know, do you want to go and you know, sell the rights to something in this new form, you know, we're not there yet, but we are going to get there very quickly. And I think when we do, you know, part of what our platform is that we can do a lot of things that they can't, such as, you know, obviously file storage, is we can actually put, you know, mega sized files in there. We can update them later. We can put license agreements in there. So I think we're pretty prepared for, you know, these future use cases, you know, as we go forward.
Yeah, there's so many future plans. I know you guys have quite a few future plans. And David, I was watching your it was the BA presentation that you had for the developers there. Yeah, really interesting. And a lot of the ideas that you have for the NFTs that you're going to be creating via the FYX platform are really mind-blowing. And one of the terms that I literally had to scratch my head and think about it for a second was meltability. This was something that you talked about, and I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on that. What do you mean by meltability, and what are these NFTs actually worth?
Well, I mean, they can be worth whatever you, essentially we have a very blank canvas to do whatever. And so by kind of defining that this NFT is in its valid state when it's got let's say 1 BSV in it, or pick a number. As we kind of define these things, that becomes, this is how this is a valid NFT. And so in order to transfer it, in order to change it, that value actually moves along with it from one person to the other, from one owner to the other. And at any point, those owners can choose to essentially destroy the token and claim the Bitcoin that's stored within it. And so that destroys that. They don't own that token anymore, but they do own the Bitcoin that's tied within it. And so you end up with this ability that by defining things such that they have a certain amount of value in just the definition of what they are, then you have that value stored with it, but you can destroy it at any time and claim that kind of the gold stored within the treasure chest or whatever.
Yeah, cool. Cool. And there's some other things I know that you were talking about with the FYX platform, where you can mint your own token and like you said, melt, and they have a whole marketplace. And David, can you elaborate on that a little bit too?
Yeah, right now you can go into our platform and you can mint in fact, I've minted a set of drawings that are art that my daughter has created, and I've created tokens of those, and those are sellable in our marketplace and ownable and tradable and meltable. Now those ones don't have any. I didn't put a bunch of BSV in them, but yeah, that functionality is actually up and running on our platform right now.
Awesome. And I love that you're saying that you can have these NFTs actually have some value, because I've heard stories of how on different platforms you can create NFTs, but the NFT is actually not even on the blockchain. It's on some server somewhere that could literally be turned off overnight, and then you don't have anything. It's
Right.
not even on the blockchain. And actually, Adam, can you talk a bit about that? Because we've discussed this in the gambling space.
Yeah.
I don't think we really understand what it means.
Yeah, I mean, we came from a world where you owned a serial number. And, if you think about with games, there's a lot of kind of content attached to an NFT. So if it's a special item or a character or just something neat, you really don't, when we think of own, you almost think of like a physical piece or an item that you can actually hold in your hands. If we kind of put that onto an NFT, is that, all of the art is sitting in somebody's warehouse and you're just kind of owning the ticket to it. And so, with our platform, kind of with file storage, what's unique is that we can do that on chain. So if we think of this, special item, all of the like 3D models, the assets, the textures, like all that can actually be stored on chain, to where that, like you said, if we take off and we're no longer in existence, the people that have the NFT still have all the files that go with that. So when you think of, long-term in the future with the metaverse, is that if games start to adopt, these items, and then, 10 years later that studios no longer together anymore, it'll still work, because they don't have to host, those images anymore. And I think that's again another foundational thing that the metaverse needs, is where, it's all in this blockchain / database or whatever you want to think of it as, and it just exists and it's just there forever. I think that's a big difference for people to start understanding. I mean, we're like a year, not even a year into this really. And 5-10 years from now, that's going to be an issue, because that's a lot of file storage that they're going to have to keep up with.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And we talked about marketplaces already. I know, David, you mentioned that it's already up and running. And I believe you use RelayX, a platform, in order for you to mint the NFTs, and then you can actually trade with their marketplace as well. Can you talk to us about how?
Yeah, we actually use some tools that they built, which is part of the awesomeness of just kind of what the blockchain is. So we're not currently on their marketplace, so they're not on ours, but we're using the same code that they built and that they shared. And so there's a compatibility that as we get to a point where we would want to completely interact, we could do that. And the same thing goes with other developers that happen to build other things still on the Run platform, is what is the actual technical platform we're built on, and so is RelayX. And so as different companies, different people start building different functionality within Run, those things can start to interact with each other. If you build in some trust that some other game stands up and they decide that they want to trust the CryptoFights fighter to be a driver in their racing game, they can totally do that, such that all the different pieces can interact with each other in kind of the same basic language and the same interfaces. So there's a lot of opportunity for interactivity to grow over time.
Yeah, and Adam, I think I've heard you say that the key to getting market share here and more activity on the BSV blockchain when it comes to NFTs versus your Ethereums or your flows or whatever it is the marketplace. And could you elaborate on that? Maybe add in any comments you have on how to grow this space here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's adoption. We have a lot of projects coming online with various different things and use cases, and we need adoption. We need to have enough of an economy to where it's self-fulfilling and it grows, and that's one of the initiatives that we are taking up with our marketplace. Is we want to add, just like there's not a big buy-in to come and play CryptoFights and get a bunch of items. I mean, we've done I think about 120,000 items and since we've launched and released to players. And so as that grows, they can send to their friends. We've seen that in the chat rooms, and that kind of brings more people in. And so if you think of these, a big game with hundreds of thousands to millions of players, they need a way to kind of emit these things. And then when you start getting into where all these other games are kind of doing that same thing as well. The marketplace, needs to be good. It needs to be easy to use. We need to have interoperability with like other projects, like what David is alluding to. So anyways, I'm working a lot on adoption, is pulling people in. I mean, you don't have to worry about crypto wallets to come in here. It's just a username and password. I think that's another thing, is that a lot of these other projects you have, choose your wallet, and there's like 6 different ways to do it. And, it's kind of a big mess. If you think what's standard in kind of like the web 1.0, if whatever we're calling it now, 2.0, you have single sign-ins, Google, I think there's like Apple, Facebook, LinkedIn now, I've seen Twitter. And those are kind of the big services that are making sign in easier. But I think when it comes to this is you just need to sign in and not need to worry about kind of all the complexity of the crypto market. And that's what we're doing. And I think as time goes on, it's just a race. I just feel like we're in a big race to get the most people essentially. And I've been looking at, like, there's Wax. They got a lot of users in some of their projects. Ethereum has trouble when their network's congested, obviously, because the gas fees go up. And a lot of these other kind of sidechain type things are kind of, everything's moved over there, and they have their own login system and all that. So again, we're very early stages, but I think we have a really good solution that we'll build upon, to make it very easy to start using this on BSV without all the complexity. Like I said before, we're done. We're there.
Awesome. Love it. And just to shift a little bit over more to the gaming industry, the gambling industry, the sports betting industry. I know, Adam, you've talked about potentially speaking with different leaders in the sports betting space about how to get involved with NFTs and why they should be looking at FYX Gaming and the platform that you have. Can you just elaborate on your interest in getting in front of these kinds of people and why you think what you've got is what they need?
Yeah, I mean, the unicorn deal was not necessarily related to NFTs. It was more about esports betting. But
Yeah.
if we were to think of kind of NFTs are really just kind of I mean, they're really a blank slate. Like Dave was mentioning, that we could make tokens that do something with esports betting. I mean, I don't even know what's possible there. But our arrangement with Unicorn was simply to provide like a new way to kind of tap into what's going on within our ecosystem easily over there. We can send the data, we can actually render the battles from the data to, send them videos to where they can show it in their site, and then people can bet on that. And so, it's a really nice system because we don't have to kind of create APIs and kind of connect each other like in Web 2.0. We just really just all look at the same place, and they can kind of look at that. They can look at our players. When you start getting into like game integrity, if we have a world to where all the players are kind of using BSV and all their moves are there, we can start to look for suspicious patterns. And we're a member of ESIC, and they actually bust people and send them to jail if they start cheating, and they have to kind of aggregate a bunch of data and talk to people and figure out, hey, are these people colluding? And in the future, it's just going to be like, hey, here's your database to look at, and it's like on them. It's just going to be so much easier and just streamlined, I think, in the future. And again, go back to your original question with NFTs. I honestly don't know where that's going to go. I haven't even had time to contemplate that with the betting side of things, but I will say, items could be like the next frontier. We used to have skin betting, which was shut down by Steam, where people could gamble with basically items from a game. And so that might be the next low-hanging fruit for them to start thinking about. The only problem is that, you know, kids were doing it, and that's kind of where it got out of hand. But, you know, obviously the esports betting, you know, they're doing KYC on everybody, and that's not going to be a problem. So maybe that's an idea, guys. You know, maybe you can start doing CryptoFights item betting. So, and we're set up for it right now. So, you know, give us a call.
I love it. I remember hearing about Steam when esports first came on the radar of the gambling world. I was like, what is Steam? Yeah. Oh my God. Right. But yeah, the blockchain, especially BSV blockchain, so crucial when it comes to regulation, and will be crucial, I think, in the future, especially helping to abide by all these rules, all sorts of jurisdictions. Everything is different. But David, is someone who is really technology focused. And Adam mentioned the unicorn deal where you're sharing your data with them, and they're being able to create betting lines from it. Why is this so much easier when this kind of information is coming from the blockchain, which is, you know, it's auditable, it's immutable over other kinds of technology? Why is it so much better?
Well, it's better just because you don't really need to give any thought about the security aspect of things. Like there's digital signatures on every transaction that happens, and the history doesn't change. So it's just, I mean, it's a data mining, just gold mine right there, that people who want to figure out how things interact and understand how different pieces interact, everything is there, and every bit of data is there. And that's, I mean, that's kind of why we're even, what's driven me to be interested in this is it really, you end up with a point where essentially every bit of data is attested by an identity. And that identity doesn't necessarily need to be known, but it can be known, and it can be revealed in such a way to prove that all those different interactions were done by a certain real person. And it just, you have so much visibility into how everything connects to everything else, rather than kind of the black box of trust the authorities and listen to what people are telling you from news or whatever. You end up getting to this future world where you don't really have to just trust talking heads. You can actually verify and see people's reputation from what they've done in the past, and people can really start proving that they have gone through certain steps or certain accreditation or certain whatever. I mean, basically this goes to all aspects of life, from gaming to legal agreements. So it can really apply to anything, but you get to a point where everything proves everything else, and the logs are there, and so anyone who's got the gumption can query them and figure it out.
Yeah, I'd imagine this would be the dream of a CTO. I mean, to have everything just there.
It's more overwhelming, actually, but it's pretty cool.
Well, what I love so much about what you guys are doing is, under the hood, it is complicated, and a lot of people don't really understand what's going on. But on the surface, it's very easy to participate in CryptoFights. I know that. I mean, even I can do it. David, anything you wanted to add about future endeavors over at FYX Gaming and what you're working on?
I think I'll keep my. Yeah, I think I don't have anything really to share at this point. No.
I will say we have a lot of really cool things that I just can't wait for us to get to. There's some ideas with CryptoFights that I think are going to be coming out pretty soon, hopefully before the end of the year. And just to, you know, stay tuned, keep playing, and I think you're going to be surprised at what we can do with BSV. So
I can't stop smiling because David, your BSV friends have taught you not to reveal any coming soon TMs, otherwise you'll get picked on. I'm joking. Honestly, guys, I love chatting with both of you so much, every opportunity I have, because you're really leading the space here. And you have lots of stuff cooking, which makes me super happy. And I'm really proud of you guys for how far you've come so far. Thank you so much for joining me, and looking forward to seeing you at the next Coin Geek event, whenever that will be.
Sounds good.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for watching Hashing It Out. This is Becky Legero with Adam Kling and David Case. Thanks for watching CoinGeek.com.